Hi, Steve Draper here in my workshop in Beveling, Nebraska. Today I want to talk about a number of different miscellaneous items pertaining to the jointer here. And here in front of you, you see the Shopsmith Jointer, which I have mounted on my Power Pro headstock. In the previous videos, you've seen me use it connected to the conventional headstock. From now on, I'm going to have it on the Power Pro, just so you can hear the difference in the sound level between the two machines. Also here I want to talk to you about this particular jointer that you look at here. Looking at it, you would think it's just been coming out of the factory recently, and it has all of the same equipment that a new one would have coming out of the factory. But actually I bought this machine brand new from Shopsmith in 1982. So this machine is over 40 years old, and I've done all the upgrades over the years, which you can do to your machine. Now, this has the original in-feed bed, original out-feed bed. However, you notice here I have attached here the auxiliary fence, which is a very nice addition if you're doing some wide stock, both on the jointer, or this, if you turn it upside down, you can attach it onto your fence as well and use it either on table saw operations or on the jointer. And I have it here on the jointer today. Now, in order to put this on here, I had to upgrade my fence because the fence, to accommodate this, has holes in different places. So I replaced the fence. Also, it didn't originally have all the safety equipment it has on it now. Originally did not have this. Originally did not have this lower dust chute. Originally did not have this safety on the back side here. And so this device here and this, those were not originally on the machine, but you can upgrade your machine over the years to get it to be like the new ones today. And I recommend that if you've not upgraded your machine, that you get all the safety equipment on it. It's so much safer to have it the way it is today than it was when it was made 40 years ago. So what I want to demonstrate for you here today is a couple of things. I want to demonstrate using this auxiliary fence in a couple of ways that it's really handy to have and use on your jointer. And also I'm going to show you how to do a rabbet on the jointer. So first of all, here for doing with the auxiliary fence, I'm going to do both. I'm going to joint an edge of a piece of stock, and then I'm going to show you putting it in the open position, 45 degrees, in order to do a chamfer on it as well, so you can see how that works. So first of all, I already have this set up for jointing. I've got my depth of cut here set right now on an 1/8, which is rather too much to do for a joining cut, so I'm going to change that to a 32nd of an inch. So there I've got that set for 32nd of an inch. And if you're doing some wide stock, that's where this really is helpful, having this auxiliary fence. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to joint this right on here so you can see me do that. And we'll go ahead and hook up our dust collection. I'll put on my eye and ear protection and then get started. Now that I've hooked up my dust collection hose, I'm going to go ahead and do my 7-step safety check here on the machine. I've got the motor lock, the quill lock. I don't have to worry about any of the locks here on the table, which is 3 locks there, so I don't have to worry about that. My machine is firmly on the ground. I've got nothing on this spindle. I do have this spindle connected to go to the jointer. I always like, before I start, just to turn this, make sure there's no strange noises before I start. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and turn on the dust collection, put on my ear protection, and I'll go ahead and joint this. So now that this is edges jointed, now I'm going to go ahead and change this to do a chamfer. And I want you to watch me as I set that up to do that. And I'm going to turn off the power here. When you're making adjustments on your machine, you want to have your power turned off. Okay. So we will push the handle in, loosen it, pull out my stop pin, rotate this back, put my stop pin back, push it against the stop pin, and tighten this. And now this is set up for doing a chamfer. Now before I do that, I want to adjust my finger. Also, okay. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to do a chamfer here on this longer edge is what I'm going to do. So here, I'm just going to press jointer under 2 inches, hardwood, and then turn on my dust collection and start. So there you can see the chamfer that I did on that edge there. For this last item, I'm going to put a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch rabbet on all 4 sides of this shaker door. So I've got it set for a 1/4 inch depth and a 1/4 inch away from the fence. Of course, I'm going to feed this way first, the cross grade first, and then we'll go around in a circle as we do it, so we will end on the long grain side. So here's the door with the rabbet cut on all four sides. Now in this series of videos that I've shown you on using the Shopsmith Jointer, I've shown you a number of different operations that you can do on the jointer. Now one thing I've not talked to you about up till now is whether you should do any of these operations on the jointer. Now historically, in the Power Tool Woodworking for Everyone series, this series of books have been written and done primarily from the background of wanting to sell tools to the public. That's why these books were written, to show all the different operations that can be done on these machines. But they never talk about whether they should be done on a specific machine and which is the best machine and best operation to do for each one. So let's go through some of the things I've talked to up through now on the jointer. First of all, I've demonstrated how to do edge jointing and face jointing. Both those operations I recommend you do on the jointer. It is the best tool for doing edge jointing and face jointing. Now the other things I've shown you how to do a chamfer, a bevel, how to do a rabbet, and do wide stock. So as far as chamfers and bevels, to be honest, in 40 years of doing woodworking, I've never done those on a project using the jointer. There are other ways that are better and safer and get more accurate results, and you can go with the grain of the wood like you need to, namely using the table saw or a hand plane. Those are much better for doing chamfers and bevels. As far as doing a rabbet, I showed you how you can do a rabbet on here. Honestly, I've never done a rabbet on the jointer prior to showing you doing it on this particular panel here. There's better ways of doing it, namely on the table saw using a stacked dado. That's a much better way of doing a rabbet. The disadvantage of doing a rabbet on the jointer is it wears out your knives much faster. Just that little bit etch on the tip of it, it's going to wear that down if you use this repeatedly for rabbets. And to be honest, it's really not a pleasant procedure having to replace these knives on these jointers and to get them back in there exactly right. So that's a reason why I don't ever do rabbets on my jointer. As far as wide stock, this is the only time I've ever used this particular attachment to the fence to demonstrate using this panel for you. And as I said, I would not do this on a jointer if I was doing my own project. So I've shown you things you can do on the jointer, but not necessarily do I recommend you do all of those things on the jointer. And going forward in my videos going forward, where I will be talking about the other special purpose tools, namely the belt sander and the bandsaw, I will show you operations you can do on those, but I won't necessarily recommend that is necessarily the best tool for doing those operations. But I will mention to you what I think is the best tool for doing specific operations. The last operation, which I've not demonstrated for you, and that's because I don't recommend you do it on your jointer, and that is you can do tapered legs on the jointer, but I don't recommend you use the jointer for doing tapering on legs, primarily because when you do tapered legs on the jointer, if this side, the grain direction goes in this direction, the opposite side is going to go in that direction. So if you do tapered leg, when I do this side, I'll be going with the grain. This side, I'll be going against the grain. The same thing will be true on the other two sides. So if you do a tapered leg on the jointer, you end up having tear out on two of the sides when you do it through the jointer. So that's why I haven't demonstrated doing tapered legs on the jointer. There's better ways of doing it, namely on the table saw or on the bandsaw. So hopefully this series has been helpful to you on using the Shopsmith Jointer, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one.